Hi, I'm Ron with Pacific Permaculture. As some of you may know, the San Francisco Bay Area used to house a lot of redwoods. Way back in the day, there was old growth redwoods, and most of those got felled and turned into wood. And in some areas there's regrowth. And today I want to take a little trip up to a place that's growth called Roberts. So let's go take a look. Take a ride up there and see what we got. Okay, so heading to Roberts, we're going to take Highway 13 in Oakland, Berkeley. It's a nice little wooded stretch of highway, very quiet. So take a look. Okay, so I got a little ahead of myself mentioning third growth. The reason it's third growth is after they harvested the old growth, there was secondary growth, and at what time frame they harvested the second growth, I'm not sure, but this is the regrowth of that, so it's called third growth. And check this out, just along the sides of the park here. This thing, let's see, to get perspective, I don't know if I can get perspective here. It looks like it's about this tree is like 6 feet wide, okay? And this is not in Roberts, it's along the side of the road. But also there's poison oak in here, so we're being very careful to avoid that. And just check out these trees. Pretty nice. See, this is all regrowth. And look, this seems to be, it might be a fairy ring. So that's 3 foot about wide, and then there's another one. Fairy rings were, they once had a big giant stump that degraded, and then the roots are still intact. So many trees will grow in kind of a circle around that. 1, 2, 3, there's a few of them. I think this is a fairy ring from a giant tree that was here at one time. If you look, there's a tiny little grove that tends to be in kind of a loop. So I think that might be what they call a fairy ring, because the roots stay alive for a long time, and then you get this regrowth, the sprouts that come from the ancient stump and root system. So there'll be patches of trees. I'm not a forestry expert, but these are things that I know, or I think I know. I'm just trying to tell you what I know. And I think right here's another one. I think this is also a fairy ring, because you see the center is open where there would have been probably a giant stump that eventually degraded. And look at all these, and these are big trees. I mean, so there's about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trees and one tiny little spike here of a tree. I mean, not to say these aren't awesome, but this is not a forest. A forest is not just trees of the same age. Yet to have a healthy forest, you have to have mixed age trees, and that provides habitat. Forest is a living system. It's not just a grove of single age trees. So that's something we need to understand. Actually, if you look over here, look at this. This actually is a stump with a sprout that grew back out of it, out of the side. Oh, this is amazing. I don't know how old this is. Probably a secondary growth stump. And looks like that was it might have been 80 or 100 years old. And then look at this. It grew out of the side. This is just things I've learned from horticulture and arboriculture classes. I can inform you with. Isn't that awesome? So if you look all in here, it seems to be all fairy rings. Just from the little knowledge I have. If somebody knows better, correct me in the comments. Tell me what's going on. But I think this is a fairy ring from a giant tree that was harvested at one time also. Look at all these trees. And let me tell you, just the feeling, the smell of being in this area is awesome. I can only imagine what it was like when there were giant trees in here. This was like a temple. Okay, as John Muir would have said, it's like a cathedral. And the sad thing is it was harvested. But the good thing is people left it to third growth, at least second or third growth, to come back. A lot of it, from what I read, is third growth, to come back, to make it a nice area to enjoy the outdoors in. I wish they would turn this back into a forest, manage it as a forest, so that there's good habitat and good growth of trees, healthy growth for the long term. Now this looks nice for now, but really it's not a healthy forest, and they need to turn it into a healthy forest. But that takes resources, that takes money, it takes caring enough to look at the long term, talking hundreds of years, not just in the 30, 40, 100 years. Look in the very long term and say, how do we want this to be? Do we want it to turn back into a healthy forest? From my view, I say yes. So I think this is a fairy ring also. But anyway, it's just awesome to be near these old trees, even though they're not, this is nothing near what you'd call a pristine system of trees or forest. Still awesome to see these old trees here. And I just thought I'd take a little walk through here and show you what's here. So the Bay Area isn't all just buildings and that kind of thing. It's not just San Francisco. So everybody knows the San Francisco Bay was named that long before the city of San Francisco was named the city of San Francisco. Okay. And the San Francisco Bay Area isn't because of the city of San Francisco. It's because of the San Francisco Bay. So those of us who live around that, it's called the San Francisco Bay Area. Pretty awesome. Quite a bunch of trees here. So there are people here visiting, so it kind of echoes, so it can get kind of loud. But overall, compared to the city, this is an awesome, quiet area. It's enjoyable to be here. So here we're actually inside Roberts. And part of this, they've actually fenced off now as a resource protection area. They did this pre-corona, and I think that's a good thing. Places get kind of over-trampled if we let them. There's more people come up here in a week than you might imagine. And now, especially with corona, things get a chance to regenerate a little bit better. Hopefully they bring in some native understory plants to grow under these redwoods that would naturally be here, rather than just being all trampled and it looks like ivy is growing under here. So, that type of thing. And at one time there was bear here in these hills. Is there a bear in the Bay Area? I really doubt it anymore. But believe it or not, if you've been to the Bay Area, how calm everything is, there was once grizzlies in the Bay Area. So California is named the Golden Bear Republic for a reason. And that golden bear on our flag is a grizzly bear. But in the 1930s, the last grizzly was killed in California. But it is part of our heritage that grizzly bears once roamed in this state. And I believe they should once again sometime. Now, how to make that happen, how to manage it, how to live around them, those are all questions I don't know the answer to. But I do believe they have a right to exist in this state. I mean, it is on our flag. So, something to be thought about. Maybe someday we can learn to live with it. More creatures that used to be here, and let them come back. And just learn to live around them. So look, there's more of these fairy ring areas. And so to me, to make a more of a healthy forest system, they need to cut some of these. And they also need to have some standing deadwood, some snags. So they need to manage it to create some snags, because snags are a very habitat rich area. And we want even the small creatures to be able to come back here and thrive, whatever those are. And if you have people trampling over every bit of the earth, creatures can't thrive. So I think that's part of them making this areas walled off a little bit, fenced off. And I think that's good. We can still view the trees. The trees can exist. We can get the bounty of nature without destroying every bit of it. And you know, I'm not a scientist, so I don't know every aspect of this. I'm learning like a lot of us are. And as I learn, I try to throw it out there to other people to learn what's going on. Things can be changed a little bit and make great improvements for nature, so that we can all leave this place a little bit better than we found it. And we'll talk about too many deer, wild pig, whatever. That's because there are not predators that are taking these things out and managing them like they would naturally, including man. Man is also one of the big predators, right? So there aren't as many hunters as there once were, and there's wild pig in California all over the place. I saw a documentary on TV one time where it said that all but 2 counties in California have wild pig, and I think wild turkey also. And those 2 things were introduced by Fish and Game as a hunting resource, okay? But now the population generally doesn't hunt. Doesn't hunt in the quantities that percentages of people don't hunt that used to. And anyway, so now we're overrun with things that keep the pigs, keep the oak woodlands from regenerating and these type of things. And also it's a potential eating resource. We need to think about that. There's a lot of people that are in need of a meal, and there's a lot of wild turkeys and pigs that are tearing things up. So something to think about here, people, in terms of permaculture. Okay, that we have things in abundance, and yet we claim there's no resource. Proper uses of resources is a lot about what permaculture is about. So something to think about. So take a look out here. Yeah, more of these. I think it's called the fairy ring. Pretty awesome. It's awesome to know that there's redwoods in the Bay Area. As a kid, I didn't realize this. My parents were too busy working. Mom was a stay-at-home mom doing her part, and Dad was working steadily at a job that required his attention 24/7. So when you guys look out and you see me with my long hair and beard and all this and think I'm from a hippie family, nothing could be farther from the truth. Okay, my parents were mainstream, didn't know much about nature because they weren't taught in school. We learned all these things about the East Coast, and yet we live on the West Coast. So there's a disconnect with the school system. And anyway, my point is we need to learn more about our area and teach people about our area and keep learning. Learn more so we can teach more. So we can regenerate some of the natural systems better. Because to the degree that we've degraded things, it needs a human hand to get it to the spot where it can regenerate on its own again. Okay. Now another thing I want to say is if you're out here at some kind of a natural area and you see some junk and you can pick some of it up to clean up the area, please do. Try to make up for the dumb people that just put their junk everywhere. Like right here, I see some kind of a car fender or something, some metal parts. I don't know if there was a wreck right here or somebody just had some car parts they wanted to toss, didn't know where to put them. I can bring these and have them recycled, so I'm picking these pieces up. I know I don't have to, but it makes the world better. If you're at the beach, try to bring a bag, pick up some of the junk that people left behind. Let's all just do our part to make it better in the ways that we can. I'm doing this. I don't have to, but my conscience tells me I have to, but no law or anything says I have to. Do a little bit more than you have to. Try to make the world a little bit better. Thanks for watching. Bye.